Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Good, feisty one today. A lot of fighting. I always like that. And a reminder, I'll have episodes all through the holiday weekend. I'm planning on recording them all right now if my voice holds out. I've got one of those old-fashioned colds that we used to get before COVID. Remember those? I've got one. But I've written all the weekend scripts, a lot to tell you about, including a lengthy Anthony Jeselnik article in Cracked that I've shared in the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. Please feel encouraged to join us. Let's start with Dave Chappelle, an article in the San Francisco Gate, bylined by Dan Gentile. I believe Dan has a little history with Dave, which he writes about in the piece. Dan writes, as someone who has covered Chappelle extensively to the point where the comic briefly made my stories a part of his act, Chappelle was at the Paramount Theater on Saturday night. He writes, it looked like Dave was poised to go into grievance mode, leaning into his heel persona. One fan behind me in line outside the venue remarked that he was hoping we'd hear the old Dave Chappelle, and at first it didn't seem like it. Chappelle, who has banned cell phones, we've talked about that, apparently went a step further. This time you weren't allowed to bring pens or notebooks. Wow. Dan writes, 3 different security guards disarmed him from his journalistic weaponry. The fact that I was on assignment didn't dissuade them. No media at all, they said. Dave, dude, this is not going to help you. This is not going to help you, Dave Chappelle. This is not going to help you. You do not want the media to turn on you, Dave Chappelle. I am warning you lovingly. You don't want the media to turn on you. After briefly revisiting the Netflix controversy, Chappelle turned to politics, noting that the transgender community will be nostalgic for his jokes once Donald Trump actually begins taking action. But aside from a couple non-sequitur slurs throughout the night and a callback involving the state of Gaza, Chappelle kept the promise he made at the end of the closer that he was done making trans jokes. Interesting note here, Dan writes, those who have seen Chappelle live had heard most of this material. He shared a bit about San Francisco needing a Batman, with a punchline about teaching the homeless community the Thriller dance, but unlike in the past where he spoke about SF, this time it felt much more affectionate. Throughout the night, he peppered the set with compliments to the Bay Area, noting that after Chappelle's show ended, he spent most of his time in San Francisco. This next section has leaked out before, despite the ban on pens. I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, you could smuggle some coal in your crotch and write on your arm. You're not going to be able to stop this, Dave. Chappelle spoke about the 24 presidential election, saying, the whites are back. Chappelle reiterated his support for the Democratic ticket, saying he didn't believe in celebrity endorsements, but that he voted for Kamala Harris. He also talked about how he knows Elon Musk and thought it was a stupid idea to buy Twitter, but boy, was he wrong. Dave joked about they're eating the cats and said he drove to a Haitian restaurant daily in support, and he didn't know what the meat was, but it sure did fall off the bone. That is a quality joke. Dan writes, I'm happy to report he gave critics, parentheses, me, nothing to complain about. It was a pretty great show. Chappelle in relaxed storyteller mode, no punching down, no knife twisting, no dying on hills of bad opinions. He seems subdued, empathetic, the old Chappelle. Anthony Jeselnik is the guest on this week's Marc Maron, a very good listen, such a good listen. I went through the extra step of actually pulling the audio. Clip number 1 here. Might Anthony Jeselnik quit stand-up?
Eventually, if I'm done with stand-up, I might leave. I might maybe Chicago. But,
done with stand-up?
Yeah.
Do you think that way?
Because I think in terms of the hour, so if I'm like, I don't have another hour in me, then I'm done.
I know, but don't you feel that after every hour?
Not really. Like halfway through this hour, halfway through this tour, I was like, this might be it. And then as I finish, I'm like, you know what if I do it again? Like, wouldn't that be great? And this is my 5th one now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I could do a 6th, what would that look like? And that's fascinating to me.
It seems neither comedian is a fan of what Joe Rogan is doing these days. Maron discusses whether or not he would play at the Mothership.
People are like, would you ever do the Mothership? I wouldn't even think about it. But I don't have any reason to perform for those guys.
Yeah.
How much do I have to hate myself? But I imagine you have some crossover.
Sure. I went toward the Mothership because I knew Curtis, the guy who was running the place at the time, from the store. He went over there.
Yeah, I know.
And I was doing like a couple shows on a Sunday, and I went over there just for a tour.
Yeah.
And I was like, this place is beautiful. It's great. It's set up as a great comedy club.
Right.
But it's too easy.
Yeah.
It's like you can't fail there.
I could.
They just want to hear like the bad words. I'm sure they would be so happy to see you there that you would destroy.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Joe Rogan's ever had a bad set at that comedy club.
Because they're happy to be part of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And an interesting take here from Anthony Jeselnik about playing arenas.
I don't know why people go to arenas to see bands. It's a terrible way to see anything. I get why the comics want to do it. I don't understand how Madison Square Garden has become this this mythic,
Like a new club.
Like I was lucky enough to do not Sydney Opera House, so even I got to do that too, but Carnegie Hall.
Yeah.
And I was so happy.
Yeah, I did that.
And I go and they're like, next time you come to the New York Comedy Festival, we'll have you do Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And I was like, why do I give up about Madison Square? Like, this is the it for me.
Carnegie Hall.
This is the coolest place I could be in, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it's
I
great.
loved it. That like from now on, I want to do just like nicer theaters.
Yeah.
You know, I don't ever want to
Yeah.
do an arena ever.
But
a nice theater is a lot of fun for me.
I mentioned at the top, there's a lengthy interview with Anthony in Cracked. I've shared the link in the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast group. Jeselnik said, even in my set now, if there's one joke that's way too hardcore, that's okay. I just don't want to do a set full of that. But it's nice to know the audience thinks that could happen at any time. I feel great. It's a weird place to be in because I did this tour for 2 years. I recorded it in April. I'm one of those guys who could either watch your special a million times and edit and perfect it, or you can watch it twice and say, get out of here. I can't look at it again. And I'm the latter. Johnny Mac is the same way. What's the line? Perfect is the enemy of good, something like that. I also like the General Patton quote, a pretty good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan next week. Sometimes you just got to hit publish. Jeselnik says, I'm mourning that I can't do these jokes anymore. I just had a great run in Europe. That was so much fun. I'm excited for the special to get out there and see what the public thinks. Doing the show for 2 years, it's people buying a ticket and coming to see it. But when you're just checking on Netflix and you don't give a hoot, that's when you really find out how good it is. And I'm excited for that. I'll find out if I've ruined people's Thanksgivings. A lot more with Jeselnik, not in tomorrow's episode, but starting on Friday. Again, the full article there is in the Facebook group. I have to remember to watch James Acaster, as I talked about over the weekend. HBO, stop releasing things at 10 p.m. on Saturday night. Not a good time. Tuesday night, good time. There seems to be some sort of beef happening. I'll source Vulture here, and I have to make sure I understand it. Kendrick Lamar dropped an album and apparently took a shot at comedians. I believe Mr. Lamar has a line about making Cat Williams proud. Kendrick then raps, don't let no white comedian talk about no black woman. That's law. He does not specify which white comedian he's referring to. Vulture speculates it could be Gary Owen, possibly Matt Rife, but people seem to believe it's Andrew Schultz. On the July 17th episode of Andrew's podcast, he made a few jokes about his guest description of a black girlfriend effect, in which a non-black man, quoting Vulture here, dates a black woman and adopts a new style, fade, haircut, and beard. Schultz at that time said they grow the beard because they need a cushion when they get slapped. Clip went viral online. The guest apologized. Schultz refused to apologize. Live streamer Academics said he was speaking to Schultz. Apparently, Schultz may have said, is this guy too woke to understand a joke? We'll keep an eye on that one. Hey, Just for Laughs announced their dates for July. We get to go back to Montreal. July 16th to the 27th. Super awesome to see that one coming back. They're bringing back the annual Comedy Pro Conference, and I'm looking forward to see who they announce. Let's stop off on Gossip Corner from the Modesto Bee. Bill Burr was in town. The Modesto Bee says in one post, Bill Burr records himself in front of our iconic arch as he declares that all towns should have something like it. Burr reads the motto, water, wealth, contentment, health. Burr says, not saying it's true. Not saying I felt that when I was up here. It's funny to say water, health, contentment, health, and then have an effing McDonald's right next to it. Actor Jeremy Renner commented, my hometown. Another post chronicled Bill Burr's day out in Modesto. Apparently he stopped for breakfast at Good Day Lucille, and he had a South by Southwest biscuit sandwich. He then checked out the Modesto Children's Museum. He took a photo with the sign for Joanna's bail bonds. People on the Modesto Reddit page said of the show, he killed it. He knew it was a smaller venue, so he barely stuck to his set list and ad-libbed the whole time, but in the best way possible. Oh, comedy newbie, I betcha he didn't. You believe what you would like. Also from Gossip Corner, Adam Sandler walking around New Jersey. Boy, how exciting. He took a few moments to post with the very busy Hackensack police. They posted Hackensack PD had an amazing time providing security for Adam Sandler while he filmed his new movie Happy Gilmore 2. Our officers are huge fans, and we're thrilled to see the magic of Hollywood in action. Thank you, Adam, for bringing your talent and humor to Hackensack. Before I get letters, half my family's cops, so I don't want you to think I'm anti-police, but I also live in the suburbs, and I see what happens with overtime. Providing security for Adam Sandler is a cushy gig. Sorry. Again, about half my family's cops. Friend of the pod, Jason Cinnamon, wrote in the New York Times about Hilarious. He was on a Zoom call with Craig Erwich, the president of the Disney Television Group, who said, "We're not trying to do, 100 things. We're trying to do a few carefully selected things that we really believe in. That, I think, quite frankly, helps quality control." Craig says he's open to sharing viewership data with comedians, something that Netflix has hesitated to do. Jason writes, "Frustrated some comics who are hoping to understand their audiences for purposes of where to tour, how to negotiate their next deal." That is a major reason a lot of comedians love podcasting, by the way. Segura's talked about that at length. Craig also promises to use old-fashioned marketing muscle. "We don't believe that it's just up to you, the algorithm to kind of get you to the right time in the right place. They sure push the heck out of Gaffigan." I'm not sure there's any post-launch buzz on the Gaffigan special, but there sure was in advance. Gaffigan on the Zoom said, "From a promotional standpoint, there's no comparison. I was grateful for the opportunity, but it felt more like an experiment, whereas Hulu has a 12-month to 2-year plan." Yeah, because they also own ABC, they also own ESPN and the Disney products, so you can very easily get Jim Gaffigan on Monday Night Football. I can absolutely see from an artist standpoint why that is very appealing. Erwich was asked if he would ever program something like Dave Chappelle's The Closer, and he said, "It's probably not what we would want to do. What we would consider is, does it feel gratuitous and purposely hateful or provocative, or purposely controversial? No, we'd probably stay away from that. This has nothing to do with Disney. We want these comedies to be enjoyed by as many people as possible, and we don't feel the need to purposely court controversy to get attention." So let's look at the list again. Zornick Garg, Andrew Santino, Mateo Lane, Sebastian's on that list. You're like, okay, I see what they're doing. Makes sense. And that is your comedy news for today. Again, I got episodes all weekend for you. You have an awesome Thanksgiving. If you skip tomorrow's episode, I understand. Spend some time with your family, watch some football, eat some turkey. I'll be here. You can listen to 2 episodes on Friday. That's allowed. All right, see you tomorrow or not.